There is a moment when you walk into a factory and feel something truly special happening. That exact feeling hit the moment we stepped inside the Aptera assembly floor in January. Standing right there was JC, the dedicated system architect behind the entire vehicle assembly operation. He is not just one engineer doing one single focused job inside this growing company. JC handles both the low voltage and the high voltage electronic systems on the vehicle. But recently, his role expanded far beyond that into something much bigger and more complex. He became the main system architect for the entire factory assembly line being built here. This assembly line is specifically designed for building the first 10 validation vehicles at Aptera. Because the volume is so low, there is no dedicated factory person for this yet. So JC stepped into that role alongside the project manager to carefully design the build order. And how exactly do you design the order in which a brand new vehicle gets built? JC started the process by meeting with every single engineer across every part of the vehicle. He took what he called a swag, basically an educated guess, at the order. Then came the virtual builds, carefully walking through the full CAD model with every engineer present. They looked at each part one by one, asking whether the order actually made sense. One example came up immediately. Put the motor in first with the control arms still up. You cannot reach the bolts, so the order has to change before it causes real problems. These virtual builds are sometimes called clear-to-build reviews and are fairly common across all manufacturing. After every engineer reviewed and signed off on the order, JC mocked up visual guides. Those visuals helped keep everyone reminded of what had been decided and agreed upon before. Even now, after completing 5 of the 10 vehicles, the team still holds virtual reviews. They ask what did not work well and what should be changed for the next 5. The goal of building 10 is not just to produce vehicles, it is to learn. Everything about communication, timing, process, and the handoff between engineering and technicians is being carefully tested. JC used to build the vehicles himself, so he never had to explain anything to anyone. But scaling from one person to a full factory floor changes absolutely everything about the process. You have to write it down, create books, define torques, set up inspections at each station. All of the 10 vehicles are where all of that methodology gets established for the very first time. Now let us walk through the actual line, because this is where things get truly exciting. The Aptera assembly line has an unusual design. It actually runs as 2 separate converging lines. One line handles the frame and powertrain side, while the other handles the body and interior. The frame side runs stations 1 through 4, while the body side runs 1A through 3A. These 2 lines eventually come together at a point that the team calls the marriage station. After the marriage, everything flows in a straight and much simpler single line from there. Before the line even starts, there is something important to understand about how work flows here. Almost everything that can be assembled off the line gets assembled off the line first. These are called sub-assemblies or tiered builds, and they are absolutely central to the whole strategy. The idea is simple. Do the detailed work away from the main line in advance. You can prepare 4 or 8 of the same component at once and have them ready. When a technician needs a sway bar, a pre-built one is already sitting there waiting. If one has a problem, you tag it, pull it out, and grab the next one. No delays, no line-down situation, and no entire vehicle halted just because one fastener looks wrong. This approach keeps the main line moving at a steady and predictable pace throughout the day. Station 1 is where the frame and the motor subassembly come together for the first time. The motor is already mounted on its subframe before it ever arrives at Station 1. Some of the harnesses that would later be hidden or obscured are also installed beforehand. At Station 1, the motor assembly rises up and meets the frame and gets torqued down. Half shafts go in, coolant lines get routed, and the sway bar gets installed and checked. Every single torque gets signed off before that vehicle moves on to the next station. Station 2 is nicknamed the skateboard because this is where the full wheels get installed. The wheels are completely pre-built off the line, tires, hubs, and TPMS sensors already on. They are kitted and staged on carts or shelves, ready to go for each specific vehicle. Every wheel kit gets linked to a specific vehicle using the VIN number and scanned in. The technician scans the VIN and logs which wheels went on which vehicle with what torque. Right now, that logging happens on phones because volume is low and phones work fine for this. But as production eventually scales up, a proper computer tracking system will fully replace the phone method. Station 3 is where even more critical systems begin coming together on the rolling skateboard chassis. The battery heater goes in here along with the compressor, which arrives already on its bracket. All of these components are pre-kitted, pre-torqued, and fully checked before they ever reach the line. Cable assemblies and electrical boxes are not just pre-built, they are fully tested before installation. Every cable arriving at the line carries a green tag that says it has been verified. That green tag means, this is built correctly, this is tested, you may now install this safely. Electrical boards get tested and flashed with software before they are ever kitted for the line. This system catches what engineers call latent failures, problems that only show up much later. By testing everything before it goes in, you eliminate surprises deep inside a finished vehicle. One of the most interesting decisions on this low-volume line involves exactly when the battery goes in. On this first 10-vehicle run, the battery is installed earlier in the process, not at the end. This avoids the need for a massive in-ground lift to access the underside of the vehicle. At lower heights and lower volumes, doing it earlier is simply the practical and sensible choice. But JC is clear that this will change as production ramps up to higher volumes. Under the more conventional practice is to keep the high-voltage battery offline until the very end. When the battery stays off until final stages, nobody can accidentally cut a wire or tweak something. JC expects this switch to happen around the 50-vehicle production run, not before that point. There are also red Viking AVs sitting in the facility, but those are for later use. Reprogramming all of that machinery for just 10 vehicles would simply be a waste of resources. So the team is saving those advanced tools for when the volumes justify the investment fully. Now, here is something that might surprise you about how this whole line is designed to work. Almost everything important learned on these 10 vehicles will carry forward into every future production line. Torque specifications, build sequences, and communication patterns are all being locked in permanently right now. If a suspension arm needs 20 Newton meters and 23 works fine, that window is now set. That knowledge does not disappear. It becomes a permanent part of the manufacturing standard forever. The team is not just building cars right now, they are building the future factory itself. Each station also has its own rhythm, and JC has given every single one a name. Not boring numbers like Station 1 or Station 9, actual creative, funny, memorable names instead. He came up with these names late at night, working long hours with tired but creative energy. One station is called Wabagong, which turns out to be the name of a carpet shark. That station is where the carpeting goes in, and JC thought it was genuinely hilarious and fitting. Another is called Donut, and another is called The Cover-Up, all named with humor and purpose. He stands by every single one of these names, tired or not, and honestly, they are great. Station 4 on the frame side is where the two assembly lines finally come together as one. The body line, called the Binks, has been running its own parallel preparation process the whole time. Everything that uses adhesives or gets hidden by the frame goes onto the body side first. The main body electrical harness is one of the first things to go into the body. There are multiple harness runs near the firewall that would be completely unreachable if left until later. A special armature lifts the body up so the chassis, with battery, can slide underneath it. The chassis lowers in, the alignment is done carefully, and the two halves become one vehicle. This is the marriage, and once it happens, the rest of the build flows in a straight line. Station 6 picks up right after the marriage and focuses on all the front-end connections. Some connectors clip into the body, and some clip into the frame, and neither could happen before. All of the front-end harnessing gets routed, clipped, and secured properly at this station. The team is also checking the first several harnesses very carefully to build a quality history. That history tells them later whether to probe 10% or 50% of incoming harnesses. If failures are rare, the sample size drops over time as confidence in the process grows. If failures appear often, The sample size stays higher until the root cause is actually found. This kind of statistical quality control is a well-established practice in electrical assembly manufacturing everywhere. Stations 7 and 8 are where the interior starts to come alive inside the vehicle. The full instrument panel is one of the biggest and most complex tiered builds on the line. It gets assembled completely off the line with every ECU installed, tested, and verified before installation. When the IP arrives at the station, the team already knows it works correctly and completely. Then, after installation, they test again to verify that every blind connection was made properly. Coolant fill happens here. The HVAC system runs, and every seal gets verified before interior panels go on. You do not want to find a coolant leak after the interior is already fully installed. So every potential failure mode gets deliberately flushed out before anything gets permanently covered up inside. At this stage, exterior panels are still intentionally kept off the vehicle for one important reason. The software team needs full access to run a complete electrical check on the whole vehicle. They plug into the main controller, ping every other controller, and ask, "What is your version?" Every controller responds, software gets flashed across the system, and everything gets confirmed as good to go. Only after this full electrical confirmation does the vehicle earn the right to receive its exterior. This is the point where the build starts feeling real, because the pretty parts are coming. The headliner is one of the most exciting pieces to go in at this stage. It is soft, it is beautiful, and it absolutely cannot go in before wiring is confirmed. You would never want to pull a headliner back out just to fix a wire underneath. So the pattern is always verify everything underneath first, then seal it up with the trim. The glazing station handles the windshield and all other fixed glass installation on the vehicle. But at Aptera, glazing goes further because it also includes bonding the solar panels on as well. All the adhesive work gets grouped together so technicians glove up once and do it all. No back and forth, no regloving, no wasted time on steps that could be grouped efficiently. After glazing comes the carpeting station, the one named Wabagong after JC's favorite carpet shark. Carpet shark or not, this station is where the floor of the vehicle gets its final finish, while vision components like side mirrors deliberately stay off the vehicle until very late in the process. The reason is simple. If someone bumps a side mirror in the factory, it costs real money. Once the team learns from the 10 that nobody hits them, they can move the timing earlier. Or they build protective covers, which are inexpensive and let the mirrors go on sooner safely. You can see this thinking everywhere on the line. Protect the investment until you understand the risk. The windshields have already been fully cleaned and inspected before they ever arrive at the station. Engineers have already signed off on them, and the rubber seals are pre-installed on the side glass. The center console arrives already built up with cork inserts and interior pieces fully in place. Door panels, inner panels, visors, and overhead assemblies all come together in the final interior stages. The overhead assembly is one piece that covers the fasteners of another, so the order matters. And then comes the station JC named the cover-up. And honestly, the name is perfect. This is where the hood goes on, the wheel pants get installed, and everything gets its cover. Wheel pants are the aerodynamic covers that fit over the exposed wheel and suspension area. On this Atlas build specifically, the team is testing a new set of aerodynamic arm covers. These are not the control arms themselves. They are covers that make the arms more aerodynamic. If you have watched Aptera track test videos, you may have seen clay being applied to the arms. That clay was used to test different aerodynamic shapes before committing to a manufactured design. Whilst now those learnings have been turned into real physical covers being validated on this 10-vehicle run. This is one of the secondary purposes of these validation vehicles. They are real test platforms. Some parts are designed with multiple versions so different options can be swapped in and tested. The 10 vehicles are not just about building. They are about discovering what the final product is. Now, step back and think about the takt time conversation, because this is important to understand. Right now on this validation line, each station can take multiple days rather than just a few hours. That is completely intentional and not a sign that anything is going wrong with the process. The technicians are recording every thought, every learning, and every suggestion as they work through each step. When a coolant tube goes in the hard way, They note it and find the better way. Put the battery heater in before the coolant tube liner, and suddenly the tube is a nightmare. Reverse that order. Tube liner first, then heater. And the whole thing becomes surprisingly easy. Those are the kinds of lessons that only come from actually doing the work in real life. On the 50-vehicle run, the team will take those lessons and build jigs and fixtures around them. A jig makes a complex task fast and repeatable and eliminates the need for judgment every time. But making a jig before you know which direction you are going in is simply wasted effort. So the 10 is for learning, the 50 is for facilitating, and beyond that is for scaling. When the process switches at 50 vehicles, will the team have to restart all the learning again? The answer is no, and JC is clear and confident about that when asked directly. The process switch just means adjusting when certain steps happen, not throwing out what was already learned. The torque windows, the build sequences, the sample sizes, all of that knowledge travels forward intact. What changes at 50 is the focus. Now the goal shifts toward nailing down takt times. Takt time is how long a vehicle should spend in each station before moving forward on the line. Getting those numbers right is what allows a factory to run smoothly and hit production targets. Right now, those numbers cannot be pinned down because the team is still learning and discovering. But the 10 is laying the foundation so that at 50, takt time becomes the real focus. Think about what is actually being built here. See beyond just the vehicles themselves in the factory. An entirely new way of manufacturing a solar electric vehicle is being invented right here in real time. There is no other vehicle quite like the Aptera and no existing playbook to simply copy from. Every decision, from build order to station naming, is being made fresh by a small, passionate team. JC used to build these vehicles alone, by hand, piece by piece, all by himself. Now he is designing the system that will teach dozens of technicians to build them repeatedly. That shift from sole builder to system architect is one of the most remarkable parts of this story. It takes a certain kind of engineer to hold that much knowledge and then give it away. To document it, structure it, test it, challenge it, and hand it to someone else to execute. Well, that is exactly what JC is doing right now on this floor, station by station, vehicle by vehicle. The build books are being written, the torque charts are being filled, the patterns are being set. What gets established in these 10 vehicles will echo through every single Aptera built after them. The methodology behind how each component is touched, inspected, tested, and confirmed is being born right now. And when you see a finished Aptera rolling out on the road someday, remember this factory floor. Remember the two assembly lines converging, the sub-assemblies staged on carts, the green tags on cables. Remember the marriage station where frame meets body and a vehicle truly becomes whole for the first time. Remember JC working late nights naming stations after carpet sharks because plain numbers felt far too boring. And remember that this entire process was figured out, from scratch, by a small and dedicated team. That is the real story behind the Aptera assembly line, and it is only just beginning.